Welcome to the most listened to golf in the world, the Fairways of Life show, on air, online, and around the world, with the most candid interviews, unforgettable stories, taking you beyond the ropes. Here's your host, New York Times best-selling author, Matt Adams.
Course plays so different in March than it does in May. It's just the difference of Bermuda and Overseed is like two different golf courses. I think the year that I won, it was, I mean, I don't know how many years we've done this in March now, but it was definitely the firmest or the closest to May I've seen it play. I think this course is more fun and more challenging when it gets like that. I think it puts more of a premium on the just on the shot making and just the ball striking aspect. I think that's why, in May you saw so many different winners. I think you saw a huge variety of bombers and short hitters and left to right, right to left, whatever you want to call it. But obviously, when it's a little bit softer, it changes that. It's I think you've seen some just longer hitters that are winning because the course does play much softer. But it requires the people to play from very similar places on a lot of holes. So you can get very different weather. You can have some nasty cold north winds in March versus May. So I'd say a lot of the differences just kind of come from how the golf course and the weather gives you.
We'll go to Paul right here in the back.
Justin, Scotty's trying to three-peat here before he even defended his title. No one had gone back-to-back. Just wondering what about this championship or this course maybe doesn't allow consistent success?
It is interesting. I feel like it's something I've kind of been asked similarly every year. I don't know what it is. I think that, but the more I play it, the more I think that obviously, if you hit every fairway, hit every green, you don't have that variety, but your ball can just go to a lot of weird places here. And I just think over time, you're going to have some years where honestly, you just get really unlucky. You hit, I've had so many years going for the ninth hole is a great example of hit a great drive and hit what I feel like is a good second shot into the green. And, say you have a left pin, you're trying to leave it kind of just right of the green, like normal, kind of playing your angles, and you get one bad kick, and now you're on like a downslope of one of those moguls. Or, Tues very similar. You can hit one, again, you kind of have a right pin, you're trying to hit it just over there, left side of the green, left edge of the green, and you can miss the green by 2 yards. Lands on that slope, and next thing you know, you're in some kind of lie on a downslope in the rough that you can't even hit the green. So very quickly, holes out here can go from birdie holes or birdie opportunities to really grinding for par, sometimes bogey. So I just think over time, Pete Dye courses kind of have those characteristics of it requires a little bit of luck. It's not a gimmicky course by any means, but just the way that some of the slopes and whatnot are around the greens, I think just over time, you're going to have some years you just get unfortunate.
And then just additionally, first 2 rounds last year you played with Scotty. Do you remember anything? He tweaked his neck at one point and was getting, do you remember just kind of realizing that and kind of watching him go through that?
I remember it very well. I was talking to him or joking about it last week because he obviously had the neck situation last year and went on to win. And I didn't know, but I guess his neck kind of something came up at the Masters last year, and obviously he won there. So I was like, clearly you need to tweak your neck more because you've won 2 pretty big golf tournaments doing it. But I just remember, and I told him last week that I think I was more like infatuated watching him go around the course with a messed up neck than I was playing my own game. It was really, I think watching great players or any player win without their best stuff or get it around a golf course without their best stuff is very impressive. And I think it kind of speaks volumes to how they are as a player. And he was far from 100%, and I audibly laughed out loud as his tee shot on 12 because his reaction was made like even Scotty's follow-throughs and body language look absurd. And then I felt pretty bad when I realized he did it because his neck was messed up. But just watching him get around and, hit way more club because he couldn't fully turn or, not attack certain pins or shots because, he didn't have everything in the tank. That's what great players and some of the best do is they find a way to get it around and find a way to be in contention. And he won, one of the biggest tournaments doing that.
Live from the Players. Today, there's a lot of activity going on. It is Players Week. What's going on, folks? Welcome into the Fairways of Life show. Absolute delight to have your company, as always. Let's take a look at the interview schedule for Tuesday. Who is coming in when? And here you can see Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Jay Monahan, all scheduled on Tuesday morning. On Tuesday afternoon, Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Adam Scott, Ludwig Oberg. On Wednesday, Rory McIlroy from the Flash area. And then first-timers Wave 1, first-timers Wave 2, and then Wyndham Clark at 10:15. The first-timers Wave 1 and Wave 2 are, as the name describes, players who are playing in the Players for the first time. And it's fun to have them come up because usually they're up-and-coming players, players that are on a pretty good run to have earned their way into this world-class championship. And it is a lot of fun indeed. As to those who you think might be in contention, the odds for this week, still early, yes, but look at this. Scotty Scheffler is 4-1 currently. Now, consider the fact that Scotty Scheffler is attempting to win the Players for a third consecutive year. That's never been done before. Scotty Scheffler is looking to win the Players for the third time. That's been done one other time before by the great Jack Nicklaus. Now, in fairness, Jack Nicklaus's wins were not on this stage, which may be more significant to you or less significant to you, depending upon your perspective. Rory McIlroy is 10-1. Colin Morikawa is 14-1. We're going to be hearing from Colin on the Fairways of Life show this morning. Ludwig, 16-1. Justin Thomas, 22-1. Xander Schauffele is 22-1. Pretty good odds for Xander. Yes, I understand all the things that Xander Schauffele did last year, but bear in mind, Xander Schauffele's in his second start since coming back from the rib injury. Tommy Fleetwood is 28-1. And just looking at those odds alone, and I know you have more, Don, but just looking at those odds alone, 28-1 with Tommy compared to the odds for the other players actually sounds like a pretty good look. If you ask me. Who else did you want to mention, Dom? Do you have some that are standing out to you?
Oh, I mean, there's. I'm just looking at it on my phone. There's obviously everybody in the field, but Jordan Spieth right now is 60-1. U.S. Ryder Cup captain Keegan Bradley is 50-1 currently.
Oh, that sounds like a good one. Yeah.
Last week's winner at the Arnold Palmer, Russell Henley.
Spieth is pretty good odds too. I think odds from a standpoint of taking a chance on it. Go ahead.
I had just mentioned that Russell Henley, last week's winner, is 30-1 right now.
Okay.
Jason Day's been showing a lot of form. He's 60-1, pretty good.
I like where you're going.
Michael Kim has been in incredible form. He's basically been finishing in the top 5 or top 10 for what feels like a month and a half straight.
Tell us.
He's 65-1.
Oh.
Just
I got to call my guy
here. Ricky Fowler's 100-1. Just sharing information here.
Has Ricky shown you enough that he could win this Players again, though, in fairness?
I mean, is that a rhetorical question, or are you asking me?
I'm asking you.
I mean, that's a hard no from me.
Okay.
Let's see here. Billy Horschel, 150-1. Carl Phillips, who just won the Puerto Rico Open and just his 4th PGA Tour start, is 170-1.
Really?
Yep.
You know why? Because this course is such a puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it always every year I feel like this place is fickle. Like you want to identify some statistics or a specific player or something, And because of the nature of the course, I kind of feel like it's impossible almost sometimes.
No, the first criteria is having played there before. Current form is always important, but having played there before is particularly important. Remember how often the great Mark Carnevale, may he rest in peace, used to tell us that it's a golf course that even if you've played it many times before, you have to pick a line and you have to commit to it because Pete Dye plays with your head. The line that you know is a safe line from the tee, he makes it look like it's dangerous. It was part of why he was an incredible course designer. And I'm not even saying that, I say that, I know some people are like, oh, I hate his courses, I love his courses, whatever. I'm not even talking about that. Whether you favor a Pete Dye course or you don't, you can't deny the fact that he was a great designer in his own right. Right? There's Corin Crenshaw, Donald Ross, Tom Doak. We could continue down the line where you've got these great designers. They may or may not be your fancy. They may or may not suit your eye of your style of play, but you can't deny the fact that they had an incredible impact on the game. And isn't that enough of a definition even right there alone to qualify as a great designer? All right,
Max Homa 200 to 1, man.
Yeah, but see, that's another one like with Ricky. I wouldn't be willing to jump in on that yet because Max is openly talking about the struggles that he's having, that he's getting closer. Now, with Jordan, his odds, which I believe you said were 60 to 1, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me double check that. Correct. Currently 60 to 1.
That one sounds like it might be a pretty good choice because
Daniel Berger also 60 to 1. He's been showing some great form.
Berger has as well. And the last time we heard from Jordan Spieth, because we featured him here on Fairways of Life, he talked about how he feels like he's getting in pretty good form. Okay, we're going to take a break here on the Fairways of Life show. When we come back, I want you to hear from Colin Morikawa, one of those who were on Andrew's graphic of some pretty tight odds. He is playing some good golf. He wasn't able to get it done at Bay Hill. Colin kind of strikes me as the type player that is particularly good when he's coming from behind, when he's close to the leaderboard and he catches a leader and surpasses him at the finish line. What's his mindset coming into this Players Week? Back with more the Fairways of Life show right after this. Hey, folks, what about Hubs Peanuts? Hubs has been cooking up the top 1% of peanuts for over 70 years, and they aren't your average nut. These are super extra large Virginia peanuts, harvested and cooked right here in the USA. Hubs peanuts are family owned and have more protein than any other nuts. So whether it's a boost on the course or a special gift, the variety of flavors guarantees Hubs peanuts is just what you're looking for. Family owned, nutritious, delicious, and sustainable. Hubs peanuts, it's just right. Head to hubspeanuts.com right now.
I got ball fit in 2000, went on a little run. Then Bridgestone fit me again, and I went on another run. I just got fit again for the new Tour BX. The ball fitting's been helping me. Will it help you?
Every January, PGA Tour Superstore pros meet every manufacturer, learn about the latest equipment, log thousands of hours of training, and together hit over 100,000 balls. All so they can get you the perfect fit.
When you choose Newton shafts, you're choosing more than a product. You're choosing innovation, pride, and excellence right here in America. We pay attention to the minutest of details, and you can feel that in the performance of our shafts.
Innovation has been at the heart of every SuperStroke grip we've ever created, cementing our status as the #1 putting grip on tour. Now the best just got better. Introducing SuperStroke Synergy, our most advanced putting grips ever, for unmatched confidence to quiet your hands and your mind. Find the perfect grip for your game at superstrokeusa.com.
Our journey began with a simple yet powerful vision to provide the world with the highest quality Virginia-type peanuts. The Hubbard Peanut Company, where quality and tradition meet to create an unforgettable experience. Visit hubspeanuts.com to explore our full range of products and place your order today.
Super easy to hit. Introducing the new PXG Black Ops irons, our first game improvement iron.
It's a larger face heel to toe.
It launches the ball high in the air and really far.
Much higher levels of forgiveness. You set that club down, creates a lot of confidence. It's supported by this X-Core all-in material.
And that's where you get improved ball speed. If you're looking for a distance, forgiveness, and feel, Black Ops irons are going to be for you.
PXG, nobody makes golf clubs the way we do, period.
Stride by Zero Friction, the first of its kind personal caddy. Walk in comfort and style with Stride's remote and follow me technology. The Stride handles almost any terrain, and its 54-hole range will last all day. The lightweight design and removable front wheels makes it simple to handle. Plus, it easily fits golf carts. Pick up your Stride today at a local PGA Tour superstore near you or at zerofriction.com/Stride. Stride, your personal caddy.
Welcome back to the Fairways of Life show. That is not TPC Sawgrass Stadium course. Tom's inside my headset going, nice work, Andrew. That is, however, the stage that all the drama will play out on. You guys know the story of this 17th green. All those mounds that are built around this golf course, you can see them in the background, but you see them everywhere. Well, they dug it out of this area where they found really good sand. And when they dug it out, there was a huge pit there. And Pete Dye was trying to figure out what he was going to do with this pit. And it was Alice Dye, his wife, who was also a designer in her own right, that said, well, why don't you make an island green? Right? And then everything they had to do, they had to bring it back to Commissioner Dean Beeman. And Beeman was like, oh, I like that idea. Let's do this. He had some thoughts on it, on how they should handle it. And then he and Pete Dye got into a knockdown, drag-out battle about how long the hole should be. Pete Dye wanted this thing long. If memory serves me, it was like 200 yards or something crazy. And Dean Beeman was like, that's insane. So the longest thing go, it's about 142 when they push it back to that rope line where you see all the people nestled in, and you will over the coming days. And it's become one of the most distinctive golf holes in the world. A lot of people think that it's too much given the course of how the course unfolds. I don't think so. I mean, everyone's playing the same hole, right? Dom, did you do a question of the day today? Because it'd be kind of curious. I'd be curious about what people. Well, I shouldn't lead you. If you did, you did.
I'm like literally looking at the odds and ignoring what Matt is. I'm still going through the odds.
You're still going through odds. But I'm just wondering what people feel about the. Did you do a question of the day?
I did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So go ahead. What's your question of the day?
Who will win the Players Championship? Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
And then I did. Andrew, put the odds back up on the screen so people can see them. I used the first three people in the odds as the first three options, and then the last is a write-in option. So do you think it's going to be Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Colin Morikawa, or other? And then I gave people the opportunity to write in. Right now, we are at 24% Scotty Scheffler, 26% Rory McIlroy, 38% Morikawa, and 12% are writing in. And some of the write-in stuff, already things coming through, Matt. Derek writes, Spieth may be worth looking at, especially before the Masters, depending on his form. John writes, people are sleeping on Sepp Straka.
That's
he
true.
Is near the top in so many stats. He's
That's
a really
true.
Good pick
Give me Sepp's odds. I love how odds are based on popularity many times.
They are.
That's where you find good deals.
I'm looking. He is down there. He is way down there.
Was the name Derek that you mentioned there, was that Derek who's from Morocco?
I don't know.
I think it
Perhaps.
is. I think,
let's see
if I
here.
remember correctly, that's Derek from Morocco that's with the Fairways of Life show around the world every day.
Keegan is a good bet.
I agree with
Got more
that, too.
people writing in.
I agree with that, too. All right, so tomorrow, Dom, if we can remember, I would like to have the people weigh in on the par 3 17th.
50-1, Seb Straka, by the way.
That's still those are still good odds to take a look at.
All right, what were you? I was reading and you're talking. What
That's
do you
okay.
need?
I don't mind that you ignore me, Dominic. We're
Yeah.
well used to that. So
You asked me to do 3 things. I do 2 of 3, and you're complaining about the third.
that's correct. That's correct. That's
What do you
my
need?
job. Tomorrow, I would like to know the par 3 17th. Like,
What about it?
choices. Love it, hate it.
Oh.
I don't know what the third one should be. That the hole should come earlier in the round. That's like one of the big criticisms that people have. Like it shouldn't be the second to last hole. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but I'd
Why?
love to hear what people say. You don't have to put that one in. I'm just like,
No,
you
I'm
can either
saying
put it in love it, hate it.
Why would it matter where it? Why would it? Need to be
That's how
moved to
kind of I
different-
feel. But maybe you do 1 is love it, 2 is hate it, 3 is meh.
Okay.
And see what people say.
We could do that.
For
You wanna
tomorrow.
do that tomorrow?
For tomorrow.
Okay.
Because right now it seems like everybody is picking Colin Morikawa. How we doing, Andrew? Anything with aforementioned? All right, so Dom, you wanted me to go down this road. Dom said to me before we took the break, he goes, I'm gonna ask you for some key stats.
Well,
that
no,
will-
you always tell me that there's, for every event, depending on the venue, you often will say to me that there are a couple key stats. Obviously, it's not everything, right? It's a compilation of everything, but you always pick 1 or 2 things that you say the players that are in the top 10 in this category are going to do well.
Well, what we try to do is when we find it, because when we were in the commercial break, I scribbled down some thoughts in this regard, and there's 5 of them. But I think that if we can find a player or players that are tops, the nearest to tops in these respective categories,
So
write
give me
down
the
their
categories.
names.
Give me the
Number 1, total driving.
Okay.
Number 2, proximity. Now, let me tell you why each one, so I can justify what I'm doing. Total driving is a combination of not only distance but of accuracy. And while the players is not particularly noted for its rough, say like last week at Bay Hill was for the API, it's critically important that you find your right start lines, because the way that Pete Dye has designed this golf course is that often he'll give you a generous area for your drive, but the generous area will make your next shot more difficult. The angle will be more difficult. So that you have to be aggressive, but then you still have to find your target. So it's control of your trajectory, control of your start lines, control of your finish. So total driving.
Total driving, proximity to hole. What else?
Proximity to the hole for the obvious reason, because Pete Dye greens are about quadrants, are about finding the right place to put the ball to have a chance to put your potentially your birdie putt in the hole, in some cases even to make a 2-putt. The next one is strokes gained approach. Again, to what I was just discussing with you, your second shot, be it on a par 5 or be it on a par 4, is critically important, because if you get yourself out of position, and whether you're striking the ball the best you've ever struck it in your life, players are going to be out of position. So at that point, you've got to rely on the club that's in your hand with an iron and a little bit more loft more often than not, and being able to control that shot into these difficult greens and at times odd angles. So strokes gain approach. The obvious one here of all of these is probably strokes gain putting. And if you press me on it, I would boil that down to putting. It wouldn't surprise people tremendously, but from 15 feet and in, which from 15 feet and in, you're well below 50% on tour. So it's a category that if someone can bump themselves up in that area, critically important. But I'm just going to go strokes gained putting right now. And then the last category I had is scrambling, because players are going to miss these greens because of everything that I just described to you in terms of the angles that they're on, et cetera. Now, I haven't asked Dom about the weather. We'll do that a little bit later on. If I don't get to it today, I won't forget. We will get to it tomorrow, because wind, as Justin Thomas was talking about earlier, is very, very paramount and important in terms of the impact that it makes. Andrew just showed me in my preview, that's why I did thumbs up there, about Colin Morikawa and getting a chance to hear from Colin Morikawa. So let's hear what's on his mind as we head into the start of the Players.
The media center here at the 2025 Players Championship. Colin, making your 5th career appearance here. What do you enjoy about coming back to this place and the challenge that TPC Sawgrass presents?
I honestly think it's one of the best golf courses we play all year, not just from the conditions, but just how it tests your game. You have to be on in all aspects, from the tee to the green, putting. Nothing's easy, right? And there's some courses out there. I mean, last week, one of those courses you just can't let up, even if it's a par 5. You know, bogeys can come in an instant, and this is one of those. You know, I would never say easy holes, but there's some gettable holes out here. But in turn, you just have to play really, really good golf if you want to finish up on top.
Awesome. All right, we'll just go right into questions. If you have a question, raise your hand. We'll get a mic for you. We'll start over here with Paul on the right.
Colin, what's the mental reset looked like for you over the last 36 hours?
Yeah, I mean, Sunday night was a lot of frustration. Just looking back over the past year and kind of how I went about my fall was to figure out how to play better in final rounds. And, you know, when you don't play well and you don't close it out, you're like, how do we go back to the drawing board? And it's not really, you know, rip everything off and start over, but there's just little things, right? And obviously I wasn't hitting it as well. I wasn't putting as well, but I still had my chances to close it out. And Russ obviously played some great golf. I mean, to make birdie on 14, eagle on 16, and finish out with 2 pars is great golf out there. So, you know, props to him, but they're just small things. You know, I love being in that position. Like, I don't take it for granted because you just never know, but it was frustrating Sunday night. I have to get over it. I mean, I'm back on my 2 feet. I'm trying to figure out how to play my best golf here for this week. I know my last few finishes haven't been as good. And, yeah, it's you just move on. You know, I'm going to think about it. I know what happened. I fully am aware of how it played out. But I just have to move on, and I have to learn from it. I have to keep getting better. And like I always say, like, you know, why not win this week?
Early in your career, you closed kind of remarkably well. Those 2 majors in particular. I think last year, final round scoring average, you were outside the top 100. Are there specific things you feel like are happening in those final rounds, or anything that has been consistent that you're working on?
So I'd say early on in my career in the final rounds, I played really, really good golf. So I hit the ball great, putted great, like things are easy. And anytime I'm playing good golf, like things are going to be easy. Like you don't really have to think, you just play. And I think last year I was never in the position really swing-wise to go and do that. So I was always kind of fighting that, like even in the practice, in the warm-ups, like just fighting what shot I was going to be able to play that day. And that makes it that much harder. Sunday was a little bit different. I felt like I was hitting it good, hit a couple bad shots, but wasn't hitting it that poorly. I just didn't make anything. And out there, like you can't be too aggressive on putts because you could easily have a 5-footer coming back, and you just have to play smart golf and take it when it's in front of you. But to me, the biggest difference is just kind of how I go about my shots. They're just small little things that not only for a Sunday, but it could affect essentially a Thursday round, a first tee shot, all these types of things. So, you know, my head's already going on how do I be better, and, you know, for the next time, you just figure it out. But I'd say early on, I just played a lot better. And, you know, you can look at strokes gained and whatnot now, but there's just a different comfort level in the game of freedom that I had back then that, you know, I'm slowly getting back right now, and you just got to keep inching at it.
All right, we're going to go over here to Dan on the left.
Yeah, the wins haven't come, but you've been really consistent. Is it difficult to not be defined by wins and losses? Obviously, this sport, if you are defined by wins and losses, there's going to be a lot more losses. But do you take some solace in the fact that the game is there, or are you only focused on the trophies?
A little bit of both. I don't look back and be like, man, I had a great week and I feel great about it, you know, because I do care about the wins and I do care about finishing up on top. So it does, when I look back at it, I'm not like, oh man, my season's set. I've had 2 seconds, I can breathe. I'm working harder than ever. I'm trying to figure out things more and more detail. So there's a little bit of, yes, I feel great because I know I can keep putting myself in contention. And if I just keep doing that, it's going to happen. Like, it's not a, you know, I said it when I won in Zozo, or in Japan, it's not a like matter of if, it's just a matter of when. But for me, it does suck because I do look back at the wins and I do care about winning. So that's where it kind of hurts.
And then I know you've been back with Rick Sessinghaus, your longtime coach, for a little while. Can you just tell us about what that's been like the second go around?
Yeah, it's been amazing. You know, he's been someone that I could just talk to through things. You know, even away from swing stuff, just kind of how I go about going into shots and going into my practice and going into tournaments. It just helps, you know, to have someone to talk to for 2 minutes, 5 minutes. He's been on the road a few more times this year so far, so it just helps to let it out. You know, I feel like I'm a pretty independent person and I can do things a lot on my own. And even then, like, it's just nice to have someone that, you know, just is there to listen. And I'm not saying that I don't have people there, but he's there in a golf space at least that can help me a little bit more. To just say, man, this is what I'm feeling. I feel very, very honest with him, and I have to be. If I'm not honest, then I'm just lying to myself, and at that point, I'm doing myself a disservice.
In Ireland, golf is more than just a game. Come and experience our world-famous links courses and our world-famous Parkland courses, all set alongside world-famous scenery. And visit our world-famous historic sites. And while you're here, enjoy our world-famous hospitality. Fill your heart with Ireland at ireland.com/golf.
Ben Hogan Golf Equipment is back. Established in 1953, we serve golfers who demand excellence of their equipment. Designed by the game's best engineers, forged in the world's best foundries, and built to order in the USA. Don't settle for off-the-rack disappointment. Elevate your game with custom clubs at direct-to-consumer pricing. Exclusively at benhogangolf.com. That's benhogangolf.com.
The best feeling iron I've ever hit. Introducing the new Gen 7 irons, the greatest leap forward in irons technology, in performance, in PXG history. Our new quantum core material explodes off the face. Are you kidding me? The Gen 7 irons deliver groundbreaking new levels of forgiveness, speed, distance, and feel. That's what I'm talking about right there. Look at that trajectory. Just phenomenal. Gen 7. It doesn't get any better.
PXG, nobody makes golf clubs the way we do, period.
Innovation has been at the heart of every Super Stroke grip we've ever created, cementing our status as the #1 putting grip on tour. Now the best just got better. Introducing Super Stroke Synergy, our most advanced putting grips ever, for unmatched confidence to quiet your hands and your mind. Find the perfect grip for your game at superstrokeusa.com.
What would your ultimate golf experience be like? Just you and a friend? Or would you round up some buddies for a foursome? Just one day? Or an entire week? There's a good chance your ultimate golf experience could be Michigan's magnificent 10. 10 incredible courses set among 3 remarkable resorts. See for yourself. Book your ultimate golf experience today.
Our journey began with a simple yet powerful vision to provide the world with the highest quality Virginia-type peanuts. The Hubbard Peanut Company, where quality and tradition meet to create an unforgettable experience. Visit hubspeanuts.com to explore our full range of products and place your order today.
Every January, PGA Tour Superstore pros meet every manufacturer, learn about the latest equipment, log thousands of hours of training, and together hit over 100,000 balls. All so they can get you the perfect fit.
When you choose Newton shafts, you're choosing more than a product. You're choosing innovation, pride, and excellence right here in America. We pay attention to the minutest of details, and you can feel that in the performance of our shafts.
So we welcome you back to Fairways Life Show. We're busy trying to find the leaders in these certain categories. The categories that I outlined, if you remember, were total driving, proximity to the hole, strokes gain approach, strokes gain putting, and scrambling. And then what I'm looking for, and we're actively working on this as we're talking to you, what I'm looking for is to see if there are players that pop up in more than a couple of categories that you can look at and go, okay, they've got a combination of skills here that are important. Or do you throw all this out the window and say it none of it matters? Like, I liked, first of all, a couple things. I liked what we were hearing from Colin Morikawa, because Colin Morikawa was talking about the fact that, no, it's not okay that I played well last week. It's not okay that I was close. I didn't win. Right? And he said winning's important to him. It's not that I'm all set, as he put it, because of a couple of good finishes already this year. That impressed me. The other thing that impressed me is when he was talking about the fact that he likes the golf course. If I'm not mistaken, I'm paraphrasing, of course, when he says, one of the best we play all year. This exercise we're going through here, Dom, is really interesting because he's doing the same thing I am, so he's going to naturally come up with some different picks and names than necessarily I would. All right, so let me tell you what I have so far. Andrew, do you have a pad or something you can write down over there? You might be able to put together some magic for us eventually. You don't have to do it right now. But here's what I'm thinking. In these categories, okay, total driving, and if you were with us in the last segment, I explained each category why, in my opinion, I think it's important at the stadium course. And I'm not going to go through every single name in great depth, but it's just interesting. Leading total driving on the PGA Tour right now, he who won in the alternate event last week was Carl Phillips. Obviously, he's going to be at this week's event. He's going to be one of those first-timers in the press conference that we talked about. But how much can you expect from him when he hasn't played this course before? Anyways, number 2. Now, number 8 in total driving, Daniel Berger. I wrote down some other names. Number 12, Taylor Moore. Number 33, Ben Griffin. Ben Griffin's been playing some very, very good golf. Number 45, Keegan Bradley. Number 57, Sepp Straka. Remember, Dom was reading comments from you guys, and he popped up. Total driving, Dom, did you find any others of note?
Sorry, my mic was off. I don't do it your way. I do it totally different than you.
Okay.
What I do is I look through all the lists, and I try and find people who are high on all the lists. And then I'll get their number from each category and then add them up and divide them. What is their average place? And I'm looking for the guys that have the highest average from those categories across the board. And I there's a lot more.
Well, then hold on one second,
because
yours is going to be more encompassing than mine. I'll continue down my march in the individual categories. I'll be curious if some of the same players come up. In proximity to the hole, this is right now, to this point, so it's current form, which I've already explained is also one of the criteria. Proximity to the hole, number 1 on the PGA Tour is Colin Morikawa. Number 3, Shane Lowry. Number 4, Sepp Straka. You're going to start to hear me mention some of the same names. Those are the individuals that I suspect that Dom's going through and grabbing and going, these are the individuals that have the best finish in these categories, and then he'll also give you some of the big names, I have no doubt. Number 6 is Keegan Bradley. Okay? This is proximity to the hole. Number 6 as well, Russell Henley. Number 14th, Denny McCarthy. Number 19th, Daniel Berger. Remember, Daniel Berger was number 2 in total driving. Number 19, proximity to the hole, Scotty Scheffler. 22, Tommy Fleetwood. Okay, strokes gain approach. Again, look for patterns in this stuff, in my view. Number 4 on the PGA Tour in strokes gain approach, Tommy Fleetwood. Number 6, Colin Morikawa. Number 9, Sepp Straka. Number 10, Justin Thomas. Number 12, Scotty Scheffler. 15, Shane Lowry. 20, Michael Kim. And 24th, Russell Henley. Strokes gained putting. Number 14 is really interesting. I have to tell you, at a macro level, when you look at distance, which wasn't one we were measuring here, but just to mention it because it serves a point. Distance, strokes gained approach, or measure it by greens in regulation, or we've already gone over proximity, et cetera, et cetera. And then you look at putting, none of those big names that we talked about earlier in terms of the odds are anywhere near the top in this category. So where golf at its professional level used to be drive for show and putt for dough, it's now drive for dough and putt for show. Strokes gained putting, number 14, Russell Henley. Number 33, Denny McCarthy. Number 37 is Rory McIlroy. I know some people are surprised by that. Number 43, Colin Morikawa. Number 50 is Sepp Straka. 54, Shane Lowry. 58, Jordan Spieth. Scrambling. This is the last category. Number 4, Michael Kim. Number 5, Scotty Scheffler. Number 9, Colin Morikawa. 13 is Daniel Berger. 21 is Rory McIlroy. 24 is Shane Lowry. 30 is Denny McCarthy. All right, so having run through all that, Dom, are you ready with any of your averages you want to share?
Read a couple more names. I've got to do one more addition thing here. Give me about 60 seconds.
What I'll do, because I'm curious, I left off at number 30 in scrambling, and I just want to continue down that road because again, all 5 of these I think are critical categories, but I think you might be interested to hear where some big names are in terms of scrambling. Davis Thompson, who I have a funny feeling about this week, is 44th in that area. Siwoo Kim is 48th. Bob McIntyre is 46th. Taylor Montgomery is 59th. Taylor Moore is 61. Taylor Moore, I'm not sure if I mentioned his name in any of these categories, but he's been popping up on a few. Sepp Straka is 66 in strokes gained scrambling, because that'd be a whole nother conversation to say if someone is just like out of it in one particular category statistically, would you take them off your list? Jordan Spieth is 73rd in that area. Keegan Bradley is 83rd with a high lofted club in hand. Russell Henley is 87th. Let's see.
Okay.
All right, so give me some of yours, Dom.
So, here's what I have. I was looking for people who were high up enough in each category that it made sense that they mattered in all the categories. I also wrote you had told me strokes gained around the green, not strokes gained putting, so I used that number. So the categories for me were scrambling, strokes gained approach, strokes gained around the green, proximity, and total driving. Now, if you look at Michael Kim, there's a lot of numbers here, but Michael Kim is 4th, 20th, 17th, 62nd, and 90th. Okay. His average is 38th, which is higher than I anticipated. Pretty high average. Keegan Bradley, 83rd, 25th, 88th, 6th, 45th. 49th in his average with all those categories that we were just talking about. Now, the two big boys are what you would anticipate. Scotty Scheffler, 5th, 12th, 33rd, 19th, 65th. His average is 24th. Colin Morikawa is 9th, 6th, 35th, 1st, and 65th. His average is 23. But here is the name that I came up with, the big name. Daniel Berger, 13th, 60th, 20th, 19th, 8th. His average is 25. So his average is very similar within a decimal point, because some of these are like 0.7, of Scheffler and Colin Morikawa is Daniel Berger in all of these categories.
Interesting.
So Daniel Berger is checking every single box, and Michael Kim is also checking a lot of boxes. Now, to your point that you just mentioned, it is interesting when you discuss certain players if you decide that a particular category is not as valuable as you were saying. So, for example, Gary Woodland is 33rd in strokes gained approach. He's 6th in proximity to hole, and he's 10th in total driving. Now, he's 171st in scrambling, which is a major problem. But again, if you get rid of that stuff, 33, 6th, and 10th, that's pretty interesting. Same thing with not Keegan Bradley, Hideki Matsuyama.
Yeah.
He is 1st in scrambling. He's 23rd in strokes gained approach, and he's 6th in strokes gained around the green. That's interesting, but he's 183rd in total driving. I don't know. What does that mean?
So what I just did, it is interesting.
So what Daniel Berger is what I get from the stuff I'm looking at.
All right,
Daniel Berger. Put some money on that guy.
That's what we're talking about. So I just went and looked up Daniel Berger in the category that yours differs from mine, strokes gained putting.
Uh-huh.
So I can see you grabbing your pen because you can recalculate this too, so we have a macro comparison here, just out of curiosity.
For which players?
If Daniel Berger, if you replace a strokes gained around the green with strokes gained putting, he's 76th in strokes gained putting, which is less than average, but it's not terrible. That means you need a flash. You need a week when you putt a little better than you normally do. It might be half a stroke around, a quarter of a stroke around.
Okay.
Right? 76. So I'm curious where he goes now.
Well, I need the putting for Scheffler and Morikawa then, if we're doing it this way.
Scheffler, I haven't found Scheffler.
I like the sweater Dom. I could see Lowry. I'm just reading. I mean,
Colin Morikawa is 43rd in strokes gained putting.
And you want that to replace around the green.
Strokes gained around the green because we're already. I assume you already did scrambling, so it's a bit redundant.
Correct. Yeah. All right. Who won the players? Scheffler, Rory. I'm just reading the question of the day and going over some comments here while Matt's doing some stuff.
Wow.
Scotty 22%,
Scheffler.
Rory 22%, Morikawa 17%, other 39%. Xander, Robert says. Lowry, Chase says.
Xander's just coming in a little bit less than experience because he's only had one start.
Scheffler is what? What is Scheffler's
He's
putting?
93rd.
Loser. All right, hold on. I'll do some math. Who wants to watch me do math? On a calculator, because I can't do it in my head. 93rd is not good, Matt. So his average goes up. Scheffler's average goes up to 38. Ooh.
38th.
Daniel Berger's average, is 35. So he now has a better average than Scheffler. And Morikawa is barely going to be touched by this because his numbers are about the same. So he's going to be your champion. Hold on. 24. It only goes up 1 for Morikawa.
Interesting.
So if you replace the putting stat with the strokes gained around stat, Morikawa becomes
it's the other way around.
He becomes your clubhouse leader.
Strokes gained around the greens with strokes gained putting leaders, and when you did
for
that,
those 3 guys,
it switched. It completely, it almost totally flipped because Morikawa was second, he's now 1. Daniel Berger was 3rd, he's now 2nd, and Scotty Scheffler was 1, he's now 3rd out of those 3. So it tells us.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, based on this criteria, it's telling us that the most likely player to win the Players' Championship is Colin Morikawa.
I think, well, the odds are in favor of Daniel Berger. Like if you're trying to make some dough, I would say put a buck down on Daniel Berger right
Andrew,
now.
could you show us those odds again?
I don't think Berger was on the list. Hold on.
There you see Scotty Scheffler 4-1, Rory 10-1, Morikawa 14-1. And believe me, the people who
Daniel
set these
Berger
odds out in Vegas are doing the same thing we're doing this morning.
60-1, Matt. Daniel Berger. In fact, I've got my app open right now. I'm gonna bet 25 cents as we speak that Daniel Berger is gonna win.
I bet he's not really betting 25 cents, folks, but whatever.
25 cents. $25,000.
Exactly, honey.
No, 25 cents. 7. So before we move on here, I wanted to read something because something just came in from folks talking, as they're going through stuff and commenting. And I wanted to ask you a very specific question, Matt, because this question's a very interesting question, I think, because it's someone that we keep forgetting about. And Andrew had him up there on the screen. He's 28-1. And the question is, when is Tommy Fleetwood going to win the big event? Tommy Fleetwood has won 7 times on the European Tour. He's still only 34. He feels a little bit older, but he's at 148 starts on the PGA Tour, and he has 5 runner-ups and 5 third-place finishes. What's going on with Tommy Fleetwood, Matt? Is it ever going to happen?
Let's look at the areas. Dom, I'm going to ask you to do me some research because I'm going to talk about where he did pop up on my criteria. Get me Tommy Fleetwood total driving, please. Tommy Fleetwood proximity to the hole is 22nd on the PGA Tour. That is excellent. Tommy Fleetwood's strokes gained approach is number 4 on the PGA Tour. Number 4. So Tommy Fleetwood, I'm going to look this one up myself because Dom's working on the other one. That's exactly what I'm looking up. He read my mind. Okay, so Tommy Fleetwood is 92nd in strokes gained putting. And then the last one that I need is Tommy Fleetwood in scrambling. No, I got it. He's number 4 in approach. We're just doing it because we're using a standard here. 92nd in putting and scrambling. He is, I'm going to give it to you in 1 second here. He's 142nd. That is so far below average. And again, this is exactly what the people who set odds do. This more so on a bigger, perhaps more important level. This is what coaching teams do.
Hold on, my mic wasn't on for half that. That must have been brutal for the audience.
He's telling us his mic wasn't on.
Okay, 9-2. It's on now. So Fleetwood's average is 73 because those high number watermarks, the proximity issues, the total driving issues.
Well, we never heard because your mic was off. What is he in total driving?
So he's 142nd. He's 4th. He's 92nd. He's 22nd. He's 103rd. So his average is 73. But here's my question.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Slow down a second, Dom. Don't assume that everybody remembers the categories when you throw it. Total driving, he is 147th.
No, he's 103rd in total driving.
Okay, 103 in total driving. In proximity to the hole, Tommy, we know, is 22nd. In strokes gained approach, we know Tommy is 4th. In strokes gained putty, Tommy is 92nd. And in scrambling, Tommy was 142nd. So all that adds up to 73rd.
73 is his average, yeah. So, but I was speaking more holistically based on the question that came in from the audience. Just what is it about Tommy Fleetwood that he just hasn't broken through? I was listening to all the runner-ups, the third place finishes. He seems to be around the lead a lot. I mean, he's on the first page of our odds this year. He seems to be on the first page of the odds at the Masters a lot. He just never seems to cross over. What's missing? Is something missing?
Well, it's funny because in 2019, people forget that he finished second to Shane Lowry at the Open at Royal Portrush. So he has the game that can do it. But the first pause that I have is when somebody goes, hey, when's Tommy going to win the big one on tour? And I think to myself, wait a minute, Tommy hasn't won the so-called little one on tour yet. He hasn't won on the PGA Tour. So when we talk about him winning, say, a major or winning the Players, he hasn't even broken through on a week-in, week-out level yet. And so when you look at that, and I think it's probably a combination of things, but when you look at that with any player, you start to go to the athletic side. What happens when it's just a swirling fray? What happens when you lose conscious control over what you do? When it has to start to become automatic, when it has to start to be what we just heard Colin Morikawa talking about just a few moments ago in this show, where he said, I'm not thinking about it when I'm playing my best. It just happens. It's automatic. I'm paraphrasing again. So From that standpoint, the only thing that I can point to with Scotty, with Tommy Fleetwood is we have, just in the categories we went over, and we went over 5 major categories. It ended up being 6 because Dom did some different calculations. So let me ask you that, Dom, because you did strokes gained around the green. Could you also give me Tommy Fleetwood in that category just for a purpose of comparison because you did it with the other guys?
Yes. Give me a second.
All right. So what I'm getting at is there's one of 2 things in my mind that hold a player back. And part of it you can overcome, as I like to say, in a flash, which means in a given week it didn't impact you the way it might otherwise. And in these type categories, I think it's particularly good for players that are coming from behind. And that is your mental capacity to handle the situation right now. The way
96th.
your neurons... What was it, Dom?
96th.
96, yeah. Which isn't surprising when I did a scrambling odd on him and came up at 142nd. So... one is, how do you play when you no longer have the ability to control what's happening around you or how you're doing what you're doing? It just becomes autopilot because it has to be, because the pressure is so high. Do your neurons fire correctly? Do you perform in that scenario? We tend to look at athletic performance, I think, as heroic acts at the moment where they need to be, when I think more often than not, it's about how you're wired. Yes, training goes into how your mental capacity works in that situation. But there are people that we all know. You look at people across the board historically. Doug Sanders, I believe he finished second. It was either 5 times or 6 times in major championships, knocking on the door multiple times. Couldn't cross the line because he was consumed by the moment. Now, people tend to look at that, again, which you know my philosophy on if you watch this show, and I think they unfairly judge the person that is able to close as going, that person was tougher than him. I don't know about that. I've questioned that for a long time. We had Dr. Mo on. I literally asked him that question. Is it something that you're predisposed to, that you're wired with, or is it something you can learn? He said, oh, no, it's something you can learn. It's a sports psychologist. His opinion is going to matter more than mine. But then I go out there and I see the toughest guys in the world, combat veterans, players that are, on front line on football teams, et cetera, tough people, rugby players, and you'll ask them about an experience in a pro-am or what have you, and they'll tell you they were nervous as they've ever been. So I think that your ability to handle stressful situations, extraordinarily stressful situations, in some part, in some way, shape, or form, comes down to how you're wired. I've always thought that the first sports psychologist, at least in the game of golf, if not at large, was Walter Hagen. Now, granted, he was the beneficiary of it singularly, but the way that his mind worked, he'd be in a very high-stress situation. He hit just a terrible shot. And instead of being consumed by that, he would go, man, I'm glad I got that out of the way. That was Walter Hagen. The classic story about Walter Hagen, which you guys probably know, he won the PGA Championship 5 times, and when he won, it was match play. He was brilliant at match play. Well, of those 5 times that he won it 4 times in a row. I believe it was after the second. It could have been after the first. It was Walter Hagen. He was out partying, celebrating, and he took the Wanamaker trophy, and he said he put it in a taxi and told the guy to deliver it back to the hotel. In his lifetime, Walter Hagen never saw the Wanamaker trophy again. So he'd show up, and the officials are like, oh, Walter, where's the Wanamaker trophy? And in his way, he went, what do I need it for? I'm just going to win it again. And he did. And he did. Until he didn't. And then he had to tell him, yeah, I lost the Wanamaker trophy. So they got another Wanamaker trophy. Years later, the original Wanamaker trophy was found in a crate in an old place of business that Walter Hagen had in Florida, which I believe was a golf club manufacturing facility from way back in the day. I believe. I'm not sure about that latter part, but I thought I read it one time on my research. But in any event, they did find the trophy in a crate that came from an old place of business that used to be his. So the original Wanamaker trophy was put back into circulation again. That's the one that you see to this day. And the replacement Wanamaker trophy has reportedly been lost. Can't make this stuff up. But it just gives you another insight. So I do think that that mental capacity is part of it. Your ability to perform at a time when you can't will it. Even though the popular position is that the best of the best will what they do, that they have this superhuman power to will it. I'm not denying that it exists. I'm just saying I don't think it's as paramount as everybody else does. I do think there is some natural element that comes into it. Do you remember when Larry Nelson told us in this show, this guy won multiple U.S. Opens, he won multiple major championships, and he didn't start playing golf until he essentially came home from Vietnam. And he said that in high-pressure situations, his heart rate, instead of going up, actually goes down. Tom Watson, who was on this show with us, talked about his ability to handle pressure in the moment, and he did it through breathing. And he actually, on the show, took this big gulp of air, this big yawn of air. He said, that's why you always saw me yawning. He was getting massive oxygen into his lungs and into his body because everyone otherwise starts to constrict. Right? Really interesting about how players handled it in the moment, all about what I'm talking about. But still, I think the greatest of the greatest have a natural disposition. So that's one. The second part is where you really start to narrow down the numbers. Now, we only looked at 5 or 6 criteria for Tommy, and in one of those areas of criteria, he wasn't to a tour average. He wasn't close to a tour average. He was absolutely awful as comparison to a tour average. That standard, of course, is very different to the rest of the world, clearly. But to the rest of his tour players, it was a very, very poor category of performance. And in Tommy's case, it's scrambling. In Tommy's case, if you choose to define it as such, it's strokes gained around the green. Now, having said that, Jack Nicklaus's categories, if it was measured in terms of strokes gains, would not be very good in bunker play. Right? Difference with Jack Nicklaus was because of his proficiencies in other parts of the game, that part of his game was not called upon nearly as much. Strokes gained scrambling, or just scrambling at large, strokes gained around the green, or scrambling itself, is a category that every player, regardless of your status, is going to be called upon every week. So that would be another answer. So all of this is a very long way of explaining, I believe, Dom, why Tommy Fleetwood hasn't broke through yet. And in those categories, it's just like we talk about strokes gained putting. I've said this many times. When you have players like Scotty or Colin or Rory, who may not be amongst the top on the PGA Tour in those categories, all they need, because the rest of their game is so consummate, particularly their ball striking, all they need is that 1 week, sometimes 1 or 2 rounds, because they're so good everywhere else. But they need that 1 week where they're average to better on tour, and they crush the field because they're so good in those other areas. Which is how and why I say in the modern tour today that ball striking is more important than putting, which is opposite to the comparison that used to be made for years. As I said earlier, it used to be drive for show and putt for dough. Well, now it's ball strike for dough and putt for show. Anybody else, Dom?
Yeah, before we say goodbye, I've got one more guy I've just been researching here that I want to throw out there that's really interesting. This is a veteran. I'm going to throw numbers out before I give you a name.
Okay.
This is a veteran player, okay? He's played in double-digit players. He's got a third-place finish at the Players. He's got a sixth-place finish at the Players. He's got a third place this year and a 21st this year. He's playing solid but not perfect. 60th. These are the categories we were going over. And this is his putting.
Define them, please, if you would.
60th in scrambling.
Got it.
45th in strokes gained approach, 88th in putting, 5th in proximity, and this is the only adjustment I made. He's 5th in driving accuracy, which I think is more important at TPC Sawgrass than
length.
Distance.
So he separated total driving where it's both distance and accuracy. He's going, let's toss out distance and let's focus on accuracy. Yeah. I'll tell you who
60th,
that sounds. It kind of sounds
5th. His number, just so you know, 40th when you make those adjustments.
It kind of sounds like a Justin Rose to me.
For reference, folks, Scotty Scheffler's numbers, he was 38th. Daniel Berger, we talked about being right up there, 35th when you add up and average those numbers. This guy's 40th. Double-digit players, a couple top 10s in the Players. You ready? He's going off at 120 to 1. Lucas Glover, Matt. Interesting. Just saying.
It's interesting, but now you've got to tell me, define for me again, because I forgot what you said. Where is he with strokes gained putting?
Strokes gained putting, it was just not a great, it was the 88th. It was his lowest number. But like you were just saying, you have a good week, you have a bad week. Remember when he won, was it last year I think that he won? He hadn't won in forever, and he won last year or the year before?
Before that. He won twice heading into the Ryder Cup, and he wasn't put on the Ryder Cup
He was
team.
putting out of his mind, if you recall.
Yes. Yeah, and
So,
he's
at
using
that
one of
time-
those new putters that is a center bore putter. So it has that, and I did a recent piece on Golf Channel where I was talking to you guys about this new technology where it has very high MOI, and MOI stands for moment of inertia. And the measurement, the highest it goes, because it measures oscillation at the moment of impact. And the higher the stability of the number, the squarer that club face will stay when you hit it off center point. And everyone hits it off center point, even the best in the world. So the more stability that you can provide, the better chance you have that it's going to stay online. It's really good for at this level at avoiding 3 putts, but it's also good at getting a couple of those that you with a normal putter, heel bore putter with a shaft bore, even heel toe weighted, but it would have missed on the high side for those guys often, and you get a couple of those just to drop in. It makes a huge difference at their level. A quarter of a stroke around is a massive amount, especially, of course, through the course of a season. So that's the thing that always we have to watch with Lucas Glover, because even though he is, as Dom said, a veteran, his and I am interested, Dom, if while I'm talking about this, you could run through those numbers you just ran through Justin Rose, because what you were saying sounded similar to me to his array. I think his putting is probably better than that, but I'm curious against that same standard when you talk about a veteran, because Justin Rose obviously is striking the ball very well too. So that's the thing with Lucas Glover, is that when he's got the long putter, and when it is a center bore putter, Andrew, could you try to find me, if you can't do it, let me know, a photo of Lucas Glover, and then bring it in on just a close-up of the putter head itself, his current putter head, which is the center bore. The putter looks very blocky, right? But the reason why is because of how much it is that heel toe weighted, so that it's very good for those of you that are curious about what I'm talking about.
Justin Rose's stats are terrible, FYI.
Dom saying Rose's stats are not coming in good. It's very good. This putting style and this putter is very good for people who tend to go square to square, which is why whenever I talk to you guys about putting, I always say the first thing when you go to look for putters, which I love people to go into like a PGA Tour Superstore, is that the putter? That doesn't look like it to me, Andrew. When he's the reason I'm reacting, folks, is I can see all the preview screens here in the studio, and so what I like to say to people is, when you go into a PGA Tour Superstore, take your time, and when you see a putter, pick it up and have some fun with it, right? Whatever it is, because I think to a certain extent a putter, it's like Harry Potter's wand. You don't pick the putter picks you. There is that element to it. Right? But I also think it's important, ultimately, 2 things. 1, that you get fit for your putter, and 2, that you know what type of putter you are. The predominant types of putting, I'm going to give you the 3 predominant ones. And the first one is square to square. And I think square to square for most people is a really safe way to putt. Follow me? The next one is where you bring it back slightly on the inside and then down the line. So it's inside to square. And the third one is open to close. That's like a door opening and closing. And that latter one, I'd say, think of Ben Crenshaw, think of Phil Mickelson. It's generally the putting stroke that looks the most artistic, and I would say it is, for good reason. It looks artistic because it is. It's beautiful when you see it effectively operated on. But the one that's the most dependable, I believe, for the vast majority of people is the square-to-square one. So it's important for you to know that, too, because it helps you in terms of picking out, in particular styles. Square-to-square tends to be a putter that's face-balanced, which means if you hold the putter shaft here, the face of the putter towards the sky, and you put it on your 2 fingers, does it stay square? right? The second type of putting that I was talking to you about is, no, that's not either. I don't think that's it either. What year is that? Is it, Dom? What year are we looking at there? It doesn't look like it to me from the front, but I don't know what he's rocking at this exact second, so that would be interesting. Go ahead, you can pull that in there, Andrew. We can take a look at that. See the center bore on that one? Dom just said it's a lab golf putter. I'm not sure if his mic is open at this point or not, but that's what that is. And you can see the center bore on it, which I was talking to you guys about. That one's not as boxy looking as the one that he used a couple years ago when he won those 2 events at the end of the season. But you can see he may be modifying along the way, but still it's a center bore. So as I was talking about whether your putter is face balanced, whether it has slight hang, which means do that same test, and does your putter drop about, say, an inch or so? Or do you do the same test, and this is for the people that have that beautiful flowing stroke, and it just drops. The face just drops. Right? Those are the 3, and those tend to be the 3 putter styles that match with each. So I hope that when you guys hear that today, if you have time, you go out and putter, you grab a couple putters from some old golf bags, and you start to practice them and give them a shot. So, all right, Dom, anything else you want to run through today? Oh, airtimes before we go. Andrew, is that all right if we do that?
I just can't stop looking at stats. I'm so interested.
What did you ever find out about Justin Rose? So we and I also want to get an update on your
93rd, 100th, 139th, 170th. He's 11th in putting, but everything else is like almost outside the top 150. So
okay, so he's a complete opposite of what we're talking about, where he needs a week in all those other areas and just hold steady.
There's a couple other little things that I wanted to mention. For example, with Joel Damon and Keegan Bradley, who I did look up. They don't have a huge weakness, right?
Yeah.
So these are guys that aren't, second in anything. But like Joel Damon, remember, we just went over Lucas Glover. His average was 40th. Scheffler's was 38th. Berger was 35th. Joel's average is 44th. But he's not killing it in any one category. 68, 11, okay. 68,
in this
26,
competition,
50.
That's okay. You can find a week.
So he's like top 30, top 40 in everything, but he doesn't have a massive glaring weakness. So it's interesting.
It is.
And when you're that type of a player, I don't know how that translates in a tournament like the Players, where you don't have a massive glaring weakness, right? But you're not absolutely the best on tour in any particular category. It'll be interesting to see how something like that unfolds.
For players like that, yeah, that is an interesting thing to continue to follow. Okay, before I go over the airtimes, Dom, give me your question of the day and where we stand right now.
Hold on.
You can find it, folks, on our Fairways of Life YouTube channel if you'd like to weigh in and vote on this.
The question of the day was, who will win the Players' Championship? Scotty, Rory. Andrew, put the odds back up so you can see. Scotty, Rory, Colin Morikawa are the 3 with the best odds, and then I have an other category. And currently, it's starting to even itself out here. Currently, it is it just disappeared on me. Hold on. Here it is. Scotty Scheffler's at 23%. And Rory McIlroy is at 21%. Colin Morikawa is at 22%. And other is 32%. So the people are saying it's not going to be one of those top 3 guys you see on those odds on your screen there.
That's always a safe bet. Honestly, that's always a safe bet to take the field against 1 or 2 or 3 players. When Tiger was at his best, it used to be Tiger or the field, and more often than not in these things, Tiger would still
look at Andrew shoving Daniel Berger in there. Interesting move.
Yeah. A little biased exposed there. At 60-1, sneaks up at the bottom of it. Okay, in terms of airtimes, let's get you started, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow as well, because there is an array of ways that you can consume the Players. Thursday and Friday, the coverage starts at 1 p.m. on Golf Channel. On Saturday and Sunday at 2 p.m. and 1 p.m., all these times are Eastern respectively, it will be on NBC. ESPN Plus's coverage of PGA Tour Live starts bright and early on Thursday and on Friday, 7:30 a.m. Love it. 4 streams covering everything, of which we'll give you the full details tomorrow, and you're going to love this. On this show tomorrow, we're going to go in depth on how, when, and where you can get this multi-stream coverage. Saturday at 8 a.m., Sunday once again at 7:30 a.m. until the conclusion. Radio coverage. PGA Tour Radio has the players. Thursday and Friday from noon, Saturday at 1, Sunday at noontime. If you subscribe to the National Satellite Service, Sirius XM, you can hear it there. You can hear it for free on the PGA Tour app or on PGAtour.com. Setting the table, folks. Getting ready. We'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, be well. Goodbye for now.